Hello, I'm Ben. I'm going to be showing you a data pack I've made which creates artificial gravity for entities. It's really simple. Basically, all it does is it takes, you can see down there, there's scoreboard. You just give any entity you want a scoreboard value on there, and that's its mass, you could say. And any entity with mass is attracted to other massive entities, depending on what their scoreboard value is. What's happening right now is there are two marker entities inside these lapis blocks, which have a mass of 3. You can see down there. It says 3,000, but that's just decimal precision. So if it's 3,500, it's 3.5. These lapis blocks essentially are attracting these TNT blocks. And I have a mass of negative 2,000, so that pushes entities away. So if I get next to this TNT block, it'll kind of get pushed away. And if I'm close to it, then it'll get pushed away faster. This doesn't just work with TNT and markers and stuff. You can do a lot with this. Another demonstration I have of this is I created like a bee gun, so it shoots out bees, kind of like from Terraria. I think Septling made one similar to this a long time ago. What it does is just shoots out bees whenever you right click, and they will be attracted to these creepers who have a mass of 1, I think, and these guys have a mass of 1 as well. So it's essentially like they're being pulled in by the gravity, but it just looks like they're, attacking them. Not super complicated or anything. You can just like attack the guys. This data pack is a bit laggy because of really how it works. If there's more creepers, it'll be a lot more laggy because when you spawn a bee, it looks at every single creeper and calculates its attraction to that one, adds it up with the attraction to all the others, and gets a velocity towards it in one direction. If you have an entity and you give them the tag G pull, they will not be pulled in by other objects. If this guy didn't have the tag G pole, he would also be attracted by the bees. So he would be attracted to them the same way that the bees are attracted to this guy. So, but if you give him the tag G pole, then he won't be attracted towards them, but these guys will still be unaffected by that tag. So what I did before in the first demonstration is I just put 2 of those guys inside the lapis blocks. So one right there, one right there. Every time this arrow summons in, I have a command block setting its gravity calc score to 3,000, I think. Yeah, 3,000. So arrows, since they have a score of 3,000, they'll be pulled in 1/3 as much as if they had a mass of 1,000. You can kind of shoot arrows, and since there's the 2 things in there, they'll be attracted to them slightly, and you can try and like hit that target block. I kind of made one of those kind of difficult. Okay, I got it. That took way more attempts than I'm gonna show, but anyways, you can see it kind of like curves around corners, because whatever. So something else you can do is you can have multiple different objects attracted to each other that aren't just like one static point, that everything else is attracted to that. So you can have, for instance, snowballs, 2 snowballs that are attracted to each other while they're mid-flight. So I just have a command block over here setting them to be anti-gravity. But if you shoot 2 of them, you can kind of get them to orbit each other-ish, kind of like a helix. Alright, they're kind of orbiting each other. They're both attracted to one another. One last demonstration I'll show is whenever I right click, it'll summon a marker entity for 1 tick. And that entity has a mass value of 1, and so it'll attract any nearby entities for like a second, and then immediately be deleted. But it kind of looks like a gravity gun, kind of, sort of, not really. Raise it up in the air. And I don't remember if I showed this already. You can set your own forward to some value, so like negative 2,000, and now all these creepers will be pushed away at a rate of 2 times. And you can have a bunch of entities all being pushed away, obviously. You can set your sort of positive number, of course. They're all attracted to you. They kind of get flung up in the air when they get really close because gravity is proportional to how close you are as well as its mass. So if they're really, really up close, then they will be flung out and around. And that's how it would work in the real world too. But like if the moon ran into the Earth, it wouldn't get flung off at an extremely fast rate because it would bump into the surface. But technically, all entities in Minecraft have infinite density because they don't have any actual radius like the Earth. Their entire entity is confined into one point. So they get closer. So these entities get closer and closer to you, and eventually, once they reach that one point that they are like pretty much in you, where the distance is essentially zero, their velocity slash gravity attraction to you is extremely large. So I've prevented them getting flung completely off into space by adding a maximum velocity that they can ever reach. So hashtag max is the maximum value that they can get flung off at in blocks per tick. So if you set max to 1,000, then they will never go above 1 blocks per tick, which is about that fast, as you can see. Or if you set the max to 10,000, that's pretty much infinite, and they'll get flung really far when they reach like near zero distances to the entity that they're being attracted to. Something I think is pretty funny to do is if you go into spectator mode, and you can just kind of fling around blocks of TNT wherever, they're just like attracted to you. And if you can actually go into the block, like start spectating it, and it really freaks out. So, and if I set max to 1,000, it'll obviously go way more because it's like inside of me. And if I go and set my value to negative 2,000, it'll like start going off into one direction. I don't know why it does that, honestly, but I think it's pretty funny. Oh, it changed direction for some reason. Something else is pretty cool to do with is with arrows. If you set them to have some positive value and you have some negative value, they kind of like avoid you when I'm kind of like in their path. They sometimes hit me if they're coming too fast at me because it doesn't have time to get enough velocity to turn around. But they're trying to like kind of avoid me. So if I go like right here, then they're kind of spewing off. But of course, if I'm directly in the path, then they'll actually hit me less, but they'll definitely still hit me. I can set my value to like a higher negative number, like negative 5,000, and they will almost never actually reach me. They'll just turn around. Unless I'm in the matrix. I'll start talking about like how it works, I guess. You can play around with like actually doing stuff yourself if you want. I will probably provide a download link in the description probably.
Okay, so this is the equation that everything's kind of based, or I should probably move my... Okay, so this is the equation that everything is based on. It looks kind of scary. It's not that bad though. It's based on this equation, which is really famous, force equals gravity times the two masses over the distance squared. That's basically all this is doing. So these arrows kind of show where the TNT block would go. If this has a mass of 1,000, it would be really attracted to this guy over here is 9,000. It's very not attracted to that one because of how far away it is, and it has a low mass comparatively. And so if you add up all these vectors, what are they called? All the arrows, they point in that direction. So the final velocity of the TNT block would be facing that direction. So you can find this green vector right here by adding up the arrows, and the arrows are determined by this equation up here. This equation is the same as up here. So it's finding v2, which is this vector right here, taking the initial velocity, which is 0, because I just put it there. It could have been coming in from like fast from this direction, and then the v1 would be different, but since it's stationary currently, it will be 0 in this instance. Then it adds to it the attraction to all of these blocks right here. And so that's what these different color-coded ones are. So the number inside of all these cosines is the angle the block makes with the TNT. The angle between the TNT block in this downwards block is 280 degrees, and so right here, or it's actually 300. I changed it. Basically, you just put the angle inside this cosine, and that finds the direction that it's going to be going in. Then what it does is it just multiplies by the mass of the object, so the factor is going to be 9,000 over here. Then it divides by the block's weight, which is 1,000, or mass. It's 1,000 down here, and then it divides by how much distance is between them. So if the distance is larger, then it's going to be divided by a lot more, so it's going to be weaker. And if the block's mass is less, then it's going to be attracted a lot more, because when it's divided by a lower number, the attraction is going to be higher. So if this was like paper, then it would be really attracted to this block over here. But if it was like a solid anvil, it wouldn't be as attracted to it. And so it does the same thing that it did to this block with this one and this one as well. So when you add them all up, you get these values, 0.31 in that direction, negative 0.163 in that direction, and plus 4.13 in that direction. So it's most attracted to this one, then this one, and then this one, even though I mislabeled the arrows kind of. Anyways, when you add those all up, you get 0.38. You multiply that by the gravity constant, which could be, it's just a constant. You can set it to like 20, or I just set it to 1 in this example. Anyways, you add that up, and velocity to this arrow, where it's actually going to be going in the next frame, in the next tick, is going to be 0.381 blocks per second in that direction. Okay, so next I just want to show, if you have two snowballs with mass 1,000, they'll be equally attracted to each other. But if you have a mass of 3,000 and 1,000 down here, the 1,000 mass is going to be more attracted to this 3,000, but the more massive one, this one over here, is going to be less attracted to that one. So you can see it kind of changes with how much mass they have. And also, I previously used the example of like the Earth and the Moon crashing into each other. So if the Moon just stopped orbiting the Earth suddenly for whatever reason, it'd be way more attracted to the Earth than the Earth is to it. As it progresses, they're going to come closer and closer into contact with each other. So it's going to start down here, it's going to come closer and closer into the Earth, and then it's going to explode into the Earth. It's going to hit the Earth. But the difference between that demonstration in like snowballs and entities, this is any entity by the way, when it gets right next to each other, they're not actually colliding with each other. They're really what they truly are. This is just a texture. It just looks like that. But what the snowball actually is a single point in space. So these dots are really what the snowballs are, and they're attracted to each other. So this dot could be infinitely close to that one, which is a big problem because the attraction is dependent on the distance between them. So if the distance is like 0.0001, then it's going to be, the velocity is going to go insane, and it's going to explode out, and you're going to get crazy velocities. Here's a little demonstration. If this snowball has a motion of that much in that direction, right? And this snowball just hasn't done anything. So as time progresses, they're going to get really, really close to each other, and then they're going to get flung really far out because they just got so close that they got flung out. And that's how it happens in the game as well. Okay, so now I guess I'll start talking about the actual commands. There are only 7 functions in this data pack, and only like 4 of those are even important. Okay, so at the very beginning, every single tick, this function runs. So all of these commands run at the same time. And all you really need to worry about is this one, which actually starts everything off, because it runs the function gravity route, which is the big one, which actually does this stuff. What this line is doing is it's executing as every single one of the TNT blocks. So it looks at like that TNT block, then it runs the function, it does some calculations, and it gets its velocity in whatever direction it goes. And then it looks at that one, and then it gets the next velocity, and then it gets the velocities for all of this individual TNT blocks or whatever entity is being pulled. So what's actually happening in the route function is it's tagging itself with the tag gcurrent. This one is the one that's currently running it. So it tags itself with the tag gcurrent, and then it just stores some information about itself, like its current position and motion. And then the really important step is it runs this function gravity polars from all of these individual blocks of TNT. So this is its current self, and it's asking this block of TNT to then run the function gravity polars. in gravity polars is what actually does the calculations to get the attraction between the two. So right now, G current is talking to this block of TNT, and it's getting the attraction between this one and this one. The way it actually finds the attraction is due to this equation. Remember this guy? This is basically all it's doing in here. So the first thing that it does is it summons a marker entity one block in the direction of this guy. This is permanently going to be one block in that direction. So if this block is all the way back up here, this will still be in the same position because it's one block in that direction. And then I divide the distance between this marker entity and the TNT block by the distance between this one and the origin squared. So if the distance between this block and that block is 8 blocks, then I'll divide his x, y, and z coordinates by 64. And that'll end up looking like him going from there to going to there. I don't actually teleport him, but that's what it's doing to the x, y, and z coordinates, which are going to be really useful later. The reason we need the x, y, and z coordinates is because it acts as the cosine of the angle, which is basically just finding the direction it is facing. So if I want to point the motion of this TNT over here, the direction that this marker is extremely important to this TNT. So after I divide it by its distance, I then just multiply it by the mass of this object divided by this object. So again, if this object is more massive, it's going to be less attracted to this one. And so the reason I summoned a marker in the first place, instead of just having it all in scoreboard values, is because the x, y, and z coordinates of the marker right here is literally the final motion that I'll store into this TNT block. And it will move in the direction of this marker. So it's literally like an arrow. That's exactly what it's doing. So this whole thing is all being executed from the perspective of this TNT, because the whole thing is actually being run from this TNT block. The total x, y, z is the vector or the arrow for that individual TNT block, and then it runs for the next one and it finds the arrow pointing towards that one, and it does the same thing for this TNT block down there. After it's done with all of those, that's the final motion that this TNT block will have, and so that's the direction it'll go in. That all happened in this one line. It will finally add all the motion into itself, so it'll actually start moving. It'll make sure that it's not above the maximum allowed blocks per tick, so it doesn't go flinging off into space, and then it'll reset everything. And it'll do this entire process again for the next block of TNT. So this all just found and stored the motion into this block. Now we got to do the same thing for all 3 of these. Finally, it just runs the route function from each individual one. This one gets set as G current, and then it adds up the velocities for all of those. Gets set, moves on to this one, adds up all those, finds the velocity, and then adds up all those for final one, and then all the velocities are found, and then it's done. So then the next tick, they'll move a certain distance depending on their motion, and then it will do the same thing the next tick. And one last example I'm going to give of something you can do with this is aim assist. It's like kind of like if you have a creeper, you can kind of shoot like to the side of him kind of, and it will pull in. It's not perfect. If you shoot too fast to the side, it won't have time to readjust its gravity. But if you shoot like kind of the side, it's going to do that. And you can also, of course, change how much it's attracted to it. So if you set their score to like 1,000, then it's only going to be a little bit of aim assist, right? Anyways, that's pretty much it, I guess, for my YouTube video. Like and subscribe, guys. Smash that subscribe button. Wait, I'm gonna try and start uploading more often, because this is like my first upload in 8 months since the entity prediction Datapack video. So I don't know. I have a lot of stuff planned. I'm extremely procrastinating. This video literally took like 2 months to make, just because I like recorded half of it and then didn't finish it for like a month because I just didn't care enough, and then I just like finished it just now. So anyways, stay tuned for that, I guess. It'll be coming up, you know. Yeah, that's about it, I guess. Thanks for watching.